Oh, hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and I was doing the last chapter, or the last three issues of The Lost Generation of the first line of this great mini-series that introduced what was going on in between that time, during the Atlas time and during the golden age of the Marvel Universe, right? So, and we'll have to point out some interesting things that happened here, because this series was something that was greenlit by Bob Harris. By the time the series ended, Joe Quesada is running here, and the series would run into some problems. And the one that's not an actual problem, that the sequels, since it did well enough for Marvel to want a sequel, all that was toast with Bob Harris gone, right? And Byrne also had a mini-series with the Black Fox planned without Roger Stern, and that was killed. Well, that was killed once Byrne was gone. So any thoughts of this project was kind of dead in the water. And also kind of dead in the water, sorry to say, was Roger Stern. Now, if anyone would point out Roger Stern, they would point out how great a writer he is. They would point out, obviously, Superman work, his Avengers work, Doctor Strange, the Captain America. I just did a video on that. He worked on all of his amazing Spider-Man work and Peter Parker's spectacular Spider-Man work. And during this period when Marvel was kind of going back to the basics, Roger Stern was kind of the guy that was kind of left holding the bag. He had all these classic credits, but at the same time, the hard part of it is, same like many people that weren't the hugest names on these comics, they had a harder time getting work, right? So I think at this time, Roger Stern had done Superman versus Hulk, or Hulk versus Superman, which was done by him and Steve Rude. He did Avengers 1.5. But outside of that, the series that he got to do on his own would be this Marvel Universe title right here with the Monster Hunters. And the first one is with the Avengers. We're going to get into the Monster Hunters in the second, or the 11th or second issue. But this is the one title that he got greenlit on his own, and it lasted 7 issues. Now, Byrne worked with him, signed him up, got this approved by Bob Harris, but then he asked Roger to help him out on it. And then we had Kurt Busiek, who had signed up Roger Stern to work on Avengers Forever, to help him finish that, and help Roger Stern help him work on his Iron Man run. And ultimately, even with that sort of hot, writer in Kurt Busiek, Roger Stern kind of wasn't able to get that next thing, but I think as a talent, he's definitely one of the top Marvel guys. Did great stuff throughout his year, everything that I've already pointed out. And this series is no different, working with Byrne, right? So, just to say that to say, the guy should have been getting work, right? Or been put on any title that didn't have a writer on it, right? So we start here. Issue 3, this is an homage to Steranko. It says it here. We have the Yankee Clipper, who we've seen a little of, but not a lot. We saw him in the last chapter. And we have the Submariner pop up here. We have a new person that we'll meet later on in this series, right? And we have the Yellow Claw, but a lot of other things, I guess before I go into this, a lot of things have changed from the past, right? So you have a Yellow Claw that's flesh tone, where he was Yellow Claw And then we go to here where we have, so this is production saying we can't do it. There's no chance of making him yellow. And then I guess we'll get to this cover because this cover has a lot of issues. But we'll get to it when we get to that. All right. So here we go. Start off with the Yankee Clipper doing almost 500 push-ups with one hand. We got effigy here. I think it's what's it? Liberty Bell. And we have Nightingale. And Kid Justice walks in while this is happening. Right? We talk about plans to go to the moon. Right? And then the Yankee Clipper has a moment because someone has told him what was going to happen, right? And he said, Dr. Cassandra. So we know who Cassandra is, but we haven't seen her in a while, right? And we're introduced to the hipster, right? And this goes along with the Coffee a Go-Go sort of stuff for the period. So the hipster is a hero. We can tell from the period that, the where this character comes from, right? Hipster doing his thing and he almost gets shot. And then we have Pixie, who we've seen before, come and help him out. And they make short work of these villains. And the dialogue here is just killer. How the hipster talks. And she wants to be the hipster's partner. And he's like, nope. She bolts and he's like, stratospheric. Let me run into the Claw. They couldn't say Yellow Claw, so he's just the Claw now. And this guy comes in there. They have all these plans, of course, and they have the Submariner, right? And then this regular goon is trying to kill the Submariner. The Submariner, of course, this is how he should be, very volatile. But he said he's seeking, and he used his real name, Xing Zhao. He's about to restore his memory, and he's going to listen to him for now, right? So right now, they can't find, here we have Namora, who they can't find the Submariner, so they decide they're going to make a character, and that's Mako. And that's this character who I said was my favorite. This is from, I did a origin of Namorita. He's in there. Obviously, Namor is there. And then as the hipster's doing his thing, Black Fox isn't too keen on him. But this hipster is the same Captain Hip from the later issues, right? So here Cassandra appears, right? Cassandra appears. And the Submariner's going into hiding. Oh, of course, him Submariner taking out the Japanese, and now he's under control. So that was a hook of why this guy wanted to kill the Submariner. And then the Black Fox shows up, and the Clipper's making short work of them. They're all doing their thing, but Nightingale helps out. This he could have fixed the Submariner, but of course he's too impetuous and runs off. The Submariner's coming in there. He's had it. He's got this bomb. This Black Force jumps in and he knocks him out. He said, oh no, that was a dead man switch. He said, oh no, gotta jump out of here before the whole place goes. Right? And ultimately, she shouldn't have jumped because we see that the belt has saved them. But at the same time, the Black Fox somehow survives. He shot up a line. He says all this whole story. And he got a Nazi war criminal, right? And they asked the hipster to join the first line, and he's out. Right. And the explosion that she told him about, right? So we got through that one. And, did a whole bunch of intro before we got to it. So we got the monster hunters there. I showed you these guys here. Where's a better picture of them? Here's a slightly better picture of them. This was Mike Manley did the first one, then Brett Belvins did the art, and then we had Armstrong. I think it's James Armstrong. Jason Armstrong. So we have Ulysses Bloodstone, we got Dr. Druid, Zawadi, who's from Wakanda. If you remember Dr. Druid, who's from the Avengers, and he was Dr. Droom originally. Jake Curtis, who is actually Macquarie. Harvey Elder, who is the Mole Man. Gorilla, who's actually, you know who it is, and the Masked Man, who's a mystery villain, right? So that's to tell you who those characters are, right? But we also have another character that's with them, is Namora, right? So we have some characters that we haven't seen before. We haven't seen this guy either. So all the monster hunters there. Zawadi, Ulysses Bloodstone, Namora, Jack Curtis, who's Macquarie from the Eternals, Dr. Druid's back there, Liberty Bell, the Clipper, and this guy who has an emblem on his chest that's similar to someone we find out later, right? So we go back to the future. They've lost contact. That's because of the explosion. They're not sure what's going on, but the signal's gone. It's almost as if she died, right? And then while that happens, the Skrulls kind of turn on the people. They're trying to get them out, all that. But they realize the Skrull Empire cannot be trusted, right? So we have these monster hunters here. And it's raining. Namora loves it. But Zawadi is going to take a better look. She goes in there, and she gets outfoxed by the Black Fox. Now, this is where the issue where I thoroughly enjoyed the Black Fox, because, of course, he was similar to the Batman, but here we see him as a happy-go-lucky pulp character, right? Similar to how, I guess, Robin looks with the domino mask. A real basic sort of hero, right? The fox emblem on him, but he has some of the tricks of it, but just a happy-go-lucky character, right? So they get into a brief battle, and they stop, and they realize we have two government officials here, and this is we've met Scotty, what's the name? I think he's a senator in there. We met Effigy in his official room, but here he is right there, right? So at this point, Effigy is not with the team. He just has them go out and help them out, right? Going by Agent Scott. I forget what his first name is. It's been a while since I did this, right? And we run into that monster here from the Atlas comics, right? So here he goes on there, and this is where he finds, he's looking for I think he's looking for the belt here, right? This is, I think, Cassandra's boyfriend at the time, and they're fighting this monster. And Agent Scott he realizes this is equipment that he's been looking for, so he goes after that. So the Clipper's following him. He's all right, but he's kind of questioning stuff that Scott told him. He gets the feeling there's more to it. He's been pulling a lot of strings, and he's reluctant to tell them about this place, right? And he sees the spaceship. And Federal Agent Scott comes in here and tries to take out this guy, but the Clipper's there to help, right? Blackjack, who actually turns to a good guy later. It's glowing, it could be radioactive. And that's when they finally stop the monster. And we see this guy running away, right? But he has a trap set. Come closer, and whoever this guy is going to become a monster too, right? So then we realize this is probably his partner that got stuck on Earth. They don't know that they're both Skrulls, right? So she changes, she sends him off, and right now he can't control himself. It's going to look like he's going to reveal himself to be a Skrull, even though they think that it's whatever monster that this guy was changed into. So if he knocks out, he gives a default human face, which is the face we've seen Effigy look like in this issue here, right? That face, that's his default human face, right? So that's cool, right? So we get to see, so not only do you realize, we've already realized that Effigy is cool, but this even makes him cooler, this whole bit here, and definitely the Black Fox. Right. They talk about the radiation, but he's like not even human anymore. And then the Black Fox has all this other tricks up his sleeve, but he's like not time for that, so he calls in a healer. Right. So there's some connection between Liberty and the Clipper. And Liberty's not too happy to find out who the Clipper is, that he brought in some other girl. But he's like, it's not time for that, right? See, her hands are folded. We get in there, and she tries to reach to him. And she gets to, there's multiple people in the same body. And we get to see how cool Nightingale is, but she was cool from the beginning. And he turns into this crazy monster, and she eases his pain, but as he wakes up, he realizes he can use it. And he's like, hey, he can change for anything. And that's where he gets his name Effigy, right? And that's how he becomes a regular member of the first line, right? So with this, Effigy joining, becoming a real, and that's where they get the name, the first line. He likes it, but the Clippers, the Black Fox is going to retire. He said, you don't retire. He's going to marry his wife and going to run off, right? And leave. And you see, he's a happy-go-lucky character, but we know, because we saw a flashback, which we didn't recognize, I didn't recognize him. So this really gave the Black Fox kind of a ground to stand on, that he was just your everyday pulp superhero from the golden age turned into this guy that's cheats more than Batman, right? So he goes off, and then we get to our last issue, which is our first issue, right? So, and Roger Stern also said if he would have done it again, he would have done wacky numbers like issue 308, issue 212, saying there's a large history to these books. So we finish with the first issue, and there's some issues with the first issue because we start out, we see some of the colors aren't as we remember them. If you were paying attention, we can look at the easiest one to see is Mako, who's this grayish blue, and here she's like kind of a zombie type of color here, right? Mr. Justice is colored right, but Yeti is not white. Was it Pixie? Her hair is not brown, it's dark. Gladfly is like a purple and whitish color, her face. Nightingale's right. The Black Fox isn't a black guy. Rumor's right. The Clipper, we can see that his chest emblem hadn't been finalized, and it looks like it's off here. This is possibly Effigy. Obviously, Doctor Strange and the Watcher. It's Liberty Bell, and that's this was the piece to kind of sell the product, and kind of had introduce all these new characters, right? And cover kind of feels like more like Terry Austin than Al Milgrom, but I don't know what to tell you. All right, so let's go through it, right? So this is Quesada taking over, and at the same time, the stuff that was supposed to go in to fix this, all that was forgotten. Right? Oh, Firefly's there too. So I think I named everybody that's on the cover. Let's go through it, and we start in the somber type of moment. We have the Yankee Clipper here with Ike Harris, and we have Pixie here, right? And she didn't know that the shapeshifters would come back. They thought it was done, right? But they're trying to keep it out of the press that the Earth was almost invaded by the Skrulls, right? They were planning to be taken over, right? So we go back to his past. He's thinking about his past before he met Cassandra. And he gets into Project Deep Freeze. And we have, he thinks they're bigger than life. It's no, it's just magnified by the tubes. The tubes, they're not the originals, right? So these guys that went mad has Captain America and then suspended animation. Kind of ironic, right? So they're trying to figure out a new Captain America. And he's like, nope, not me. This is one of the classic things of being a hero, of turning down this mantle or what he didn't feel that he was deserved. But he's actually an all-American, so he's, sports figure, right? So people still remember him, right? And then we go to Agent Scott. He has to do something with Captain America's shield, or this facsimile of it. And he said, what if he became that? He's like, nope, he could never become America's greatest hero. I'd have to concoct the entirely different persona, right? So he's thinking about it. What if he became that? Maybe the Yankee Clipper, the All-American. Since DiMaggio retired, and who do we see? Someone teleporting in, and she teleported from the explosion. And his car is finished, but at the same time, he sees He sees Cassandra, right? And she sees Patrick Carney, you're the Yankee Clipper, and it's right while he was thinking of it. So it also is a thing where he came up with the name before she gave it to him, right? So it's not something that kind of, the way movies do it where someone else gave you the name. She just confirms it, right? And since he doesn't have the car, he goes to the closest hospital. And they say, no, they're backed up. They can't take her. And he has to take her to a Negro hospital, right? Because that's across town. He said in St. Bart, amidst charity cases, to take your Negress friend. And he's like, charity cases, my aunt, right? And of course, someone has to be apologetic. They've really been busy with taking her, so someone does have a heart. She realizes she's not going to make it. She has to tell him something about it, tell him about the alien invasion, all this other stuff that he's not ready to believe, right? He takes the car, finally gets her to the hospital, and the doctor says she can't make it, but she finally understands what time is about. It's like a circle, and passes it off to the Yankee Clipper, right? And that's a great splash to introduce him, right? I think that's like a sail, so that's a stylized version of sail of a Yankee Clipper, right? I think that's what it is, right? So he's teleported into right before the alien invasion, and then a lot of people don't remember, but the older folks says, hey, he's the Yankee Clipper. And he runs off. And we have the crime of Ultimate X-Men. And then he's like, whoa, what is going on? So he was just, if we remember, I think it's issue 4, where he gets teleported when Cassandra, she goes to the past and he goes to the future, right? So that's what happened. When they meet, they were too much close proximity. We see what seems like a prostitute, but it's actually she's an actual agent, right? And just remembers that Liberty Bell is passed. He wants to get a coat. Why would I suspect anyone from Mass Man? He's checking out the bill because they don't believe him, and he makes his way, right? And this time they trying to state where he's at. That it's 86, and Reagan's president, and he has to figure out where the first line is. And you realize the phone has push dials, right? So at the same time, the number is gone, and we see Mr. Justice. That's his kid brother, all right? Feared the worst. And Mr. Justice goes into action. You know what's going to get caught. Then the Clipper comes out of nowhere, right? And he said, who's wearing that costume, right? And then they would talk about the package that had to be hidden during that mission, right? And no one else would know. But then, of course, he has a bad reaction to loving and not happy. It's like, what happened to you all those years? Right? And he's upset that he never filled his shoes. He said, always had the belt of the power belt, right? So, and he sees his old friend, and his old friend is much older, right? If he jumps back, he would change everything, right? So he can't do that, right? So he can't go back to his life. That's why the time belt has a forgetful factor. So you could appear in time and then people would forget who you are, right? Except for Nightingale, who wouldn't affect anything, right? So he's going to hide in plain sight for all this time and getting used to things. And he meets up with Pixie, right? Who's kind of the character who's the mainstay of it. And I think it was Burns' favorite character in there. And he's thinking, I wish he was there for the Skrulls. But he couldn't be there because if he was there, he'd be forced into a time jump again. Right? So now they go to the courts. They're not happy with it, with their revisionist lies. Right? And this also has a thread that goes through like American history, like how American history's kind of changed, right? So, with that said, so it's a pretty decent time travel story. I've always wanted more. So we're at this stage of it, and it's going on fairly long. Who would be left to do the new first line for Marvel besides creating new characters, right? So, let's see. In my mind, I know who survived is Pixie, the Yankee Clipper, and Yeti, right? So you have 3 members from the original group that's still alive. So I'm gonna do Marvel Magic and turn it into a 5-member group of the current day. So if I were to do a monthly first line, since we have 3 that survived, I would bring back the Eternal Brain, who was tossed out into space, but at the same time, it would be just the information of Walkabout, and the Eternal Brain would be downloaded somewhere, and now Walkabout and the Eternal Brain are one. So it's kind of having a human in a robot's body, sort of what Vision became, but it would be a Walkabout that's, now has a connection to it, fully merged with the Eternal Brain. Right? So that was my idea. And that was the easy fix. But then I would have to, since Mako's only in like 2 issues, I would have to bring her back. She was also tossed in space, but since she was an Atlantean, she could possibly be knocked out and be brought back somehow, like kind of frozen, but her body, who's able to withstand the pressures of water, would somehow withstand that and be brought back to some other planet or something like that, and then reunited with the first line. So now, with that said, we'd have to figure another Skrull to go with the team. So I think there was a story, which was, I think I did a story on it, which was the War to End All Skrulls. There was a Skrull who was kind of the good guy. So we need a kind of good guy Skrull. So that character would kind of be the final member. Or maybe I'd have to come up with a new one to add sort of more political intrigue to it. But anyway, that's it. We have the first line, the Marvel, the Lost Generation, the gap between the Golden Age and the Silver Age, all in one volume. 12. It's not in one volume, but we also got introduced to the cool monster hunters in this portion of the series. This kind of I don't know if we could say this is the last big deal project that Roger Stern worked on, at least at Marvel. But, it kind of was. And Roger Stern said, the other thing was, we gave Marvel a whole new toy line that they kind of put to the side, that they could just put on the shelves and see if it made money. So it's something, when you have stuff to reprint and stuff to make different things of, maybe we would use it. But I guess that's about it. Spin rack out.